Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got our final power rankings of 2024. We're going to make this a little bit more exciting than usual. We'll get to all this coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the Internet Hockey Channel. Now before we begin this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all your support. We're new to stuff you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below and don't forget to comment down in the comment section below so something else goes in today's video. So in today's video, we've got another power rankings video to discuss. Having done one of these in a couple of weeks, but because it's the last day of 2024 when I'm recording this video, sorry for the delay, but because it's the last day of 2024 that I'm recording this, and this is the last video of 2024, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of doing just what happened the past week, like I've usually been doing, just looking at the past week, see how much things have changed, I'm going to do an encompassing 2024 power ranking. So from the start of the 2024-2025 season back over in October to right now in December, I've been doing power rankings each and every week. So sort of rounding them all up from each of the first 10 weeks of my power rankings, sort of average them out, see which teams were able to make it through each and every of my power rankings, which teams maybe missed a couple of weeks, but I sort of averaged it all out. And I'm going to doing the power rankings based on the 10 power rankings I had in the first 10 weeks of the season. So basically this is going to be an average of who has the best power rankings for the 2024 season portion of the 2024-2025 season. So we're going to get to these power rankings. First, we got 4 honorable mentions, and I wanted to try and do at least 3 teams from each division in these final power rankings of the 2024 season. So the last one is a team who's been really falling over the past little while, but had a really good first couple of weeks, and which is why I still have them on honorable mentions, and that's New York Rangers. Rangers had a fantastic first few weeks. The first 3 weeks of my power rankings, I had them in my top 5. They were doing really good. The next 3 weeks, they sort of started to fall off a little bit, and then after that, they sort of fell off a cliff, and I haven't put them in my power rankings since. Like I said, just because they were in early on and were one of the better teams in the Metro Division, not one of the best teams, but one of the better teams. I do have them as an honorable mention here. The current records, I think 16, 19, and 1. Like, they are looking awful right now, but at the start, they were like 12, 5, and 1. So they had a really good start to the season. So like Shesterkin, Quick, they're still doing pretty good, even though that team's not doing overly good. Shesterkin is keeping them in games and keeping games close. Defensively, started out the year all right, but since then it's been really bad. Fox has still looked all right, but I mean, they've moved on from Trouba. Miller's had sort of subpar year. Schneider's actually done quite well this year too, so they've had some decent bright spots on the defensive end, but still hasn't been overly great. Offensively, a lot of players in slumps. They moved off from Calco earlier in the year. Lafreniere, Panarin, and Trocheck still looking pretty good, but Zibanejad's had an awful last couple of games. Kreider's not had an overly great stretch. Riley Smith isn't doing overly good. Some of the depth players aren't producing like they used to, so all in all, the Rangers have now had an overly great stretch over the past 4 or 5 weeks, so that's why they are my last honorable mention, but they do slightly make it onto my honorable mention list for 2024 just because of their start to the season. Honorable mention number 3 is the Colorado Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche were a team who was a really good team in the Central Division and better than a lot of the other teams, but they didn't make it into my actual top 10 at all this year. They were an honorable mention 4 twice. They were also an honorable mention 3rd, and the closest they got was being an honorable mention 1. So they didn't get into my top 10 power rankings at all in the 2024 season, but they have been the best Central Division team who did not make into my top 10. So with that in mind, and with the fact they're heating up, like, they did not do overly fantastic the first couple of weeks. Like, they were hurting badly, but they've gone on like some sort of an incredible run. I think they're like 21-12-0 since their 0-4-0 start. Like, the Avalanche have started to heat up a little bit as of late, and because of that, I do have them as my honorable mention number 3 in my 2024 power rankings. Like I said, deep goaltending wise, they've switched it up. Georgiev and Union out, Blackwood, Wedgwood in, and it seems to be working well. Blackwood and Wedgwood have been looking fantastic. Makar, Taves, Gerard, Manson, like, the defense has still looked fantastic for the Avalanche, even when the goaltending has not. And offensively, it's taken a little bit of time to get up to speed, but Nichushkin's looking good since he's been back. McKinnon's looking fantastic. Rannon's looking fantastic. Lekkonen's looking fantastic now he's back. Colin's had some pretty good starts to the season. So all in all, Avalanche had a pretty good start to the year. Even though they didn't make my top 10 power rankings, they were an honorable mention a couple of times, and they have them as an honorable mention number 3. Honorable mention number 2 is the Vancouver Canucks. Now, Canucks, sort of like the Avalanche, were mostly an honorable mention. They didn't make them in my top 10 power rankings once early on in the year. Since then, they haven't been able to get back, but they've been an honorable mention 3 times, so they nearly got into my top 10 on multiple occasions. They've been in my honorable mentions at least, or my power rankings, 7 out of the 10 weeks that I've done my power rankings. So Canucks have been a pretty good team. They're solid. They're not the best team right now. I think they're like 4th in the Pacific Division right now with a 17-10-8 record, so it's not overly bad, but they haven't been playing overly great over the past couple of weeks. So I had them as my honorable mention. They aren't able to cut it to make it into the top 10 power rankings for 2024, but they still had a pretty good year. year. Lankinen's looked fantastic, and Demko, since becoming back, has looked pretty good in net. Defensively, Hughes, Ronick, before they got injured, have been looking fantastic. Myers, Susie, Juleson, they've all looked pretty solid too. Branchman's actually had a pretty good start. And up front, Miller, Pedersen, Besser, Garland, DeBrusque, they're all looking very fantastic. So all in all, I had the Canucks as my second honorable mention. My top honorable mention for 2024 was the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, just like the Canucks and the Avalanche, they're a team who really never made my top 10 power rankings, but were an honorable mention on 4 separate occasions. They're one of the most lethal teams that I think I haven't put into my top 10 power rankings at this point in time, and because of that, I'm going to have them as my first honorable mention for 2024 portion of the season. They're 20-12-2, like defensively, goaltending wise, looking really good, even though they lost Sergachev in the offseason. Hedman, Moser, Perbix, Chernik, they're all looking good defensively, and in net, Vasilevsky is looking phenomenal. Again, Johansson isn't looking too bad as a backup, and up front, Kucherov's putting up elite level numbers again. Points looking good, Sorelli's looking good, Hagel's looking good, Paul's looking good. Are they getting the best of depth production? Probably not, but they're still looking pretty good, so that's why I have the Bolts as my top honorable mention. And going over to my top 10 power rankings for the 2024 portion of the 2024-2025 season. So at my 10th spot is the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings were on my top 10 power rankings, or were at least honorable mentions 7 separate occasions this year, making their highest point of my 2024 spots as 8th in the power rankings. So they never really got really high in my top 10, but they were still looking pretty good. They're a lethal team. They're dangerous. I think they're currently second in the Pacific Division. Like, they are looking like a beast of a team right now. Rick's been a solid backup, and Kemper sort of solved their goaltending problems. Defensively, even without Drew Doughty, Anderson, Gavrikov, Clark, Edmondson are all looking pretty good defensively. And up front, Byfield, Fiala, Kempe, Kopitar, who seems to not age at all, and a couple of other guys on the forward group are looking fantastic. So Kings, all in all, are looking pretty fantastic. One of the top teams in the Pacific Division, and after making an appearance 7 times, at least as an honorable mention or in the top 10 in my 10 previous power rankings, I have them as my 10th team on a 2024 power rankings list. The 9th team on my 2024 power ranking list is the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs made my power rankings, at least as an honorable mention or in my top 10, 8 times, and had a pretty good average, averaging about a 7.6 spot. So they're averaging between 7th and the 8th spots most of the time. They got to 6th on separate occasions for the power rankings. So the Leafs were actually looking pretty good at some points in the season. They were looking phenomenal. So the Leafs have had a pretty good start to the season. They're 23-13-2 and lead the Atlantic Division. So they're looking like a really elite level team. They're one of the top teams in the Atlantic, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. Goaltending wise, Wall's been looking phenomenal, and Stolarz, before he left, has also been looking great for the Leafs. Defensively, the additions of Tanev over Ekman Larsson to add to McCabe and Riley have been working phenomenally, making that team a superb defensive team this year. And up front, Matthews has missed time with injury, but when he's been in, he's been fantastic. Nylander, Marner, Tavares, Nice, Domi, McMahon, they've all looked really good offensively. So the Leafs have a lethal offense, a much better defense, and because of where I had them in my 2024 power rankings the first 10 weeks, I had them as my 9th team on the power rankings this week. 8th team on my power rankings list is a team who made my power rankings 9 out of the 10 times that I made my power rankings this year, and that's the Florida Panthers. The other Atlantic Division team in my top 10 is a really lethal team. The Panthers, the defending Cup champs, will make their final 2024 appearance at the 8th spot, so that's really good news there for the Panthers. They had a phenomenal 2024. On top of winning the Cup last year, the start of this year has been another phenomenal one. Just like the Leafs, they're 22-13-2, one of the top teams in the Atlantic Division, tied with the Leafs for that, one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. They're once again looking like they're probably going to go on a deep playoff run. Like Bobrovsky and Knight have both been fantastic in net. Even though their defense isn't as good as it was last year, Mikula, Kuliakov, Ekblad, Forsling, they're all holding down the fort on the blue line. And up front, you've got Kachuk, Barkov, Reinhart, Samoskevich, Verhage. Like, that entire top 9 is looking phenomenal for the Panthers. So all in all, I have the Panthers as my 8th team on my power rankings. Team number 7 is the last team I have in my top 10 power rankings for the Pacific Division, and that's one of the top teams in the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights. The Golden Knights have varied a lot throughout my power rankings this year. They were off one time. They made it 9 times at least in my top 10. They did make it as high as 2 on multiple occasions. They haven't been 1 yet, but they have made it as high as 2. So the Knights have been looking lethal, averaging about a 6.4 placement spot. So they've been averaging around the 6th spot on my power rankings. Offensively, this team is clicking. Hurdle, Barbashev, Stone have been a fantastic top line, but even when they're out, guys like Hurdle, Carlson, Holtz, Kolasar, Howden have been picking up the slack. Like, this is a really deep offense. Defensively, probably one of the best defenses in the NHL. Theodore, Pietrangelo, Hannafin, Whitecloud, Haig, like that's a lethal decor. And in that, even though they haven't been fantastic on every single occasion, Helen Samsonov have given them some strong goaltending. So all in all, Knights have had some pretty good records. They've done some pretty good things this year. They have a wicked winning streak right now and are 25-8-3 on the year. So they are one of the top teams in the NHL, and I have them finishing in 2024 power rankings in the 7th spot. And my top 6 teams are all either from the Central Division or the Metro Division. So my 6th team is a team who's made the power rankings 9 out of 10 times this year, and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes have been one of the best teams in the NHL. There's been a couple of times on 3 separate occasions where they have been the 2nd team in my power rankings, but just like the Knights, they've not been able to get up to that top spot at this point in time. The Hurricanes are one of the best teams in the Metro Division, having a 22-13-1 record, play the least amount of games out of the top 3, but they have a massive lead on 4th spot in the Metro Division, so there's a very likely chance the Hurricanes are going to make the playoffs, and they are looking lethal. Like, even without superb goaltending, because Frederik Andersen is injured, Kochekov, Martin, and Tokarski have given them at least reasonable goaltending that's kept them in games. Defensively, Orlov, Burns, Chatfield, Slavin, like that decor is looking great. And up front, Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, Natchez is having himself one heck of a season. Martinuk, Stahl, Carrier, like they're all looking really good. So the offense is clicking. The defense could probably use some work, but that's because of their bad goaltending injury to Frederik Andersen, and still they're one of the top teams in the Metro Division. So I had them finishing 2024 season as 6th on my power rankings. At 5th in my power rankings is a team who made the power rankings each and every one of my first 10 power rankings weeks, and that's the Dallas Stars. The Stars were one of the most consistent power ranking teams this year, one of the top teams in the NHL, and they've sort of fallen off the last couple of weeks, which is why they've had some lower rankings, but they have been one early on in the year. One of the earlier weeks we had the Dallas Stars as the first team in my power rankings, so they have been one. Those past couple of weeks haven't been higher than 3rd, so they've definitely been slipping a little bit, but the Stars are still one of the top teams in the NHL. They're still one of the top teams in the Central Division. They're looking good goaltending wise. They're fantastic with Onger and the Smith. Defensive wise, could probably use some upgrades, but Heiskanen, Dumba, Liabushkin, Lindell have all been doing really good. And up front, one of the deepest forward groups. You got Duchesne, Ben, Sagan before his injury, Johnston, Stankoven, Hintz. Like that forward group is lethal and loaded with weapons. So all in all, the All-Stars have had a pretty good year this year. Solid offense, decent defense, and even though they're slipping in the past little while, I have them as my 5th team to finish with the 2024 season. The 4th team in my power rankings is another team who was on the power rankings list each and every one of the 10 weeks, at least as an honorable mention, and that is the Minnesota Wild. The Wild started out as a pretty low team in the year. It's a team who would probably be around the 7-6 mark, but they started to gain some traction, and they were first in the league for a couple of weeks, and that meant they were first in my power rankings as well. There was a couple of stretches where they had some really good runs, and I put them as my top team in the power rankings on 2 separate occasions. So the Wild were a really good team. Not just like the Stars slipped a little bit over the past couple of weeks. They've lost a couple of games recently, but still, Gustafsson and Fleury have been pretty dang good in net. Defensively, even though they've had some injuries, Spurgeon, Brodin, Faber, Bogosian, like they've all been pretty good. And up front, Ersenek, Kaprizov, who's having himself one heck of a season, Goudreau, Johansson, Boldy, like all those guys, Marco Rossi, they're all doing really good on the offense. So the Wild have an elite level offense, a pretty solid decor when they've been healthy, and some pretty good goaltenders. And with that in mind, I have them as my 4th team in my 2024 power rankings. The 3rd team in my 2024 power rankings is another Metro Division team who had a solid 2024 season to start with, and that's New Jersey Devils. The Devils, who have been first on multiple occasions as well. Twice this team has been first, and they've been in the top 5 for a majority of my top 10 power rankings. I've made the top 10 power rankings each and every week, so the Devils have been a dominant team. There have been a couple of weeks where they fell to the low 10s, but still, they've been a really good team. This team is 24-12-3. They are one of the best teams in the NHL. They've had a couple of sour stretches, which is why I've dropped them a couple of times, but they've had some pretty good offensive outbursts like Jack Hughes, Palat, Heischer, Meyer, Mercer, Holla. Like their offense is looking lethal. Defensively with Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Pesci, Siegenthaler, like the defense is looking really good. And in net, Markstrom has had multiple shutouts. Jake Allen has looked phenomenal in net. So all in all, the Devils have been been one of the top teams for basically the entire season. They've been one of the best teams for the entire season with solid goaltending, really good defense, elite level offense. I have them as my third team to finish out the 2024 season. And my top two teams are my top two banners here for the 2024 season. The second team I have on my list for the final 2024 power rankings is the Washington Capitals. Now, they only made my power rankings 9 times, but the first week they had only played one game and I didn't put anyone in who had only played one game. So that was sort of on me, because after that they've been phenomenal. They have not been outside the top 5 since that first week that I didn't put them on there. So the Capitals have been a phenomenal team, being a consistent top 5 team in my power rankings and a consistent top end team in the Eastern Conference. I think they currently lead the Eastern Conference with a 25-10-2 record, so they are one of the leaders in the Eastern Conference and are a solid team. Like in net, the addition of Thompson to add to Lindgren has been phenomenal for the Capitals. On the defensive end, Chychrun found himself a role. Matt Roy, when he's been healthy, has been good, and they also still have Karlsson and Sandin. And up front, Ovechkin's still producing at a high level. You have Strome, you have Mangiapane, you have Wilson, you have Protas, you have Dubois, you have Dowd. Like, their offense is lethal. So I have the Capitals being the second team to end the 2024 power rankings, having an elite level offense and a very fantastic defense. But my top team for the 2024 season, I think at this point in time, would have to be the team who does currently lead the league in points, and that's the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets have had one heck of a start to the season. Started the year 8-0-0. They were the top team in the power rankings for multiple weeks in a row. I think it was 3 weeks in a row they were top team in the power rankings. They haven't been lower than the 6th spot in the power rankings, in my power rankings so far this year. So the Jets have been one heck of a dominant team this year. Hellebuck and Comrie and net have been phenomenal. Defensively, with guys like Pionk, Morrissey, and a couple of other guys, that team has been lethal. And up front, Connor, Scheifele, Ehlers, Velarde, and a couple of other guys like Lowry, Niederreiter, and Appleton have been phenomenal offensively and have led that team strong. So all in all, the Jets have had an elite level offense, stellar goaltending, and a pretty good defensive core that has led them to be the top team in the NHL at this current point in time. So at this current point in time, with my final 2024 power ranking video, I have the Jets being the top team in the NHL. So definitely, that's all I'm going to talk for this video. I'll let you guys thoughts. But just to recap, for my top 10 power rankings, the final power rankings of the 2024 portion of the 2024-2025 season, we have the Kings at the 10th spot, we have the Leafs at the 9th spot, Panthers at the 8th spot, Knights at the 7th spot, Canes at the 6th spot, Stars at the 5th spot, Wild at the 4th spot, Devils at the 3rd spot, Capitals at the 2nd spot, and Jets at the 1st spot. So definitely, that's my power rankings for the 2024 season as my last power rankings of this year. So definitely, let me know your guys' thoughts on all of that. And if you think I put anyone too high for this year, put anyone too low, or leave anyone off, definitely let me know your guys' thoughts on all of that down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. We're going to like this video. If you're interested, subscribe below. Thank you for your support. We're now to have you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment down in the comment section below so someone else gets in this video. Also, blog, comment, news, rumors, analysis. If that's going to check that out, the link down in the description below. And can I see you guys all for next video. See you guys soon.